of surety that, of course, this industry's got to transition away from coal. That's obvious, it's happened worldwide, but we need some good infrastructure put in so there's a transition period and a clear vision of what's going to happen.
I've been talking already about wanting to sell up their houses, but it's already devalued. You know, we've gone through the privatisation of the power stations, and now that, you know, Hazelwood will be closing and people wanting to sell up, they're worried about, because it's not only the people that are working at these stations and mines, it's the flow-on effect of partners, wives, you know, kids going to school, may potentially not be here anymore, spending in the valley, you know, will stop.
Oh, look, basically, we've been looking at this situation for a while, and we believe that it doesn't need to be complex. We've got a very simple plan where we believe that the problem that we've got should be done on a reasonable basis, where we would allow some of the older workers to take early retirement and redundancy across the industry, which would make positions open where some of the younger people from the power stations that may be facing closure could basically take up those positions in the newer power stations, irrespective of who owns the power stations. Yeah, look, I think that a just transition is achievable. All it takes is a little bit of will from the different parties, like the state and federal government and the other generators and the unions, all to work together to look after the interests of the people that are displaced from any possible closures in the Trobe Valley and in the power industry.
We understand as a government that the role in terms of transitioning economies, particularly economies that are moving right across the world to a lower emissions base, are really critical. But you must work with local communities in terms of that work. You must generate the support for that work. And importantly, you must execute that work with the full confidence of communities. People need certainty. They need to actually understand what their future looks like.
The Hazelwood Worker Transfer Scheme is an Australian first in early retirement and redeployment for workers facing closure. It's the closest we've come to a true just transition. The scheme was put together by unions, employers and government coming together and working out how to fund the voluntary redundancies and early retirements that would free up job opportunities for power workers and mine workers. In just transition, the best job for a power worker is a power worker's job. The best job for a mine worker is a mine worker's job. And all of the Hazelwood workers will be able to apply for jobs in neighbouring power stations and mines. There is much more to be done. This can't be allowed to happen again on 3 months' notice. For a true just transition in the electricity sector, we need to have 3 years' notice of closure so that we can put in place training and voluntary redundancies and early retirements, and have a plan for every individual worker so that no one is left behind. The Hazelwood Worker Transfer Scheme is a small, important but first step. We need a nationally mandated, government-run statutory authority to handle just transition throughout the electricity sector, throughout energy and throughout all industries, and that's what we will push for.
Workers around the world demand a plan. They demand dialogue for just transition measures. It has 3 layers. A national plan. What are governments doing to ensure a zero carbon future? Employers. Dialogue with employers is critical. An agreement, collective agreements about the future of enterprises and workplaces. The challenge of the Paris Agreement. And of course, a plan for vulnerable communities and workers. Investment in communities, jobs for the future, but security and good work, decent jobs, jobs that people can trust for a future in a zero carbon world. We demand national plans, industrial plans and community plans that people can trust.